Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Item number 1, to receive and consider for acceptance apologies for absence from members of the council.
So we have received apologies from Andrew. He has another work meeting. He may join us later on, but we are quorate.
Okay. Thank you. Item 2, to receive any declarations and disclosable pecuniary interests or non-registrable interests by members or the clerk, and to consider any requests for dispensation.
Nope, nothing.
No.
No. Feedback. Why did anyone hearing that with the noise?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Item 3, to receive any questions or comments from members of the public regarding items on the agenda.
No members of public present.
And B, representations from any member who has declared a personal interest.
None present.
No.
Okay, it's going swimmingly. Item 4, to approve the minutes of the extraordinary virtual meeting of the Parish Council on Thursday, the 22nd of October 2020. Anybody have any issues
No.
with the minutes?
No.
All good. So I can give you a nod on that, Fen, and we'll sign them at some other point in the future. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So just to let you know, in terms of the actions from the meeting, which are at the bottom, I've let the scouts know they're good to go.
Yeah.
I am currently using my monitor keyboard and mouse, so thank you very much. Brendan and I have placed the order for the net, and Brendan's met them for a site visit, so we're on track for a December installation. I've made all the transfers for the earmark reserves, so the playground fund is obviously looking healthier and the SIL fund has reduced somewhat, but we have received some more SIL funds this month, so that's been topped up by 1,400. Mike, we just need to see if we can get an emergency response meeting in the diary at some point to talk about the fuel, but that's also to go through that big plan I sent you all. So that takes a bit of sorting. So it is on the list and we'll just move that along to another action.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay. That cover number 5 as well, discuss any matters arising from the minutes of the extraordinary virtual meeting.
Yeah.
Second. Right, somebody else can talk now. I would like to receive a report from District Councillor Caroline Culver. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. How are you doing?
All right.
Even.
Good.
Locked
Good.
down,
Good.
but all right. Yeah.
So what's been happening? We have started to have our weekly meetings of the Ridgeway volunteer coordinators again. Now that we're in lockdown, you might recall that we did this during the first lockdown. And we had a coordinator from each of 6 or 7 local villages, and it was basically an opportunity for us to discuss issues of common interest, and if we had any problems we were able to share solutions. So it was all to do with collecting medication, getting people stuff from the food bank, all of that kind of thing. And Fen will know all about this because Fen was our representative from East Ilsley. So we've started doing that again. We had our first meeting last week. I don't know if you're aware, 8 Bells for Mental Health are doing this thing called Community Navigators. And I'm very conscious that we've got a lot of people locally who've signed up to be volunteers during COVID. And not everybody has had something to do, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, we have a lot of people who do want to help out with things. So if it's okay with you, I don't know, have you seen this, Fen?
Yeah, it was on our website.
Oh, okay, fabulous. So you know about it then.
Yeah.
I'm conscious that there used to be a different system 2 or 3 years ago. There was something else. And when I was on the parish council, I remember they came along to the Baptist chapel and they did a presentation where they were trying to get local people to sign up to be volunteers to help people out. So I think they would have done the same if it wasn't for COVID. They would have physically gone out to parish councils and talked to them. So I promised them that I'd big it up to try and get a bit more attention. The fun never ends. I've got dog fouling stickers here. Anyone want any dog fouling stickers?
Yes, please.
Good. I'm pleased to hear it because I've got loads of them. How many would you like?
So I'd need to identify locations I can stick them properly.
Okay.
So if maybe I could arrange with you a time to pop over, and I can
Yeah,
come
sure.
on. I'll do a quick scout around the village, and then pop to yours and say how many, and then I can go and stick them on. Are they actual
Okay.
stickers?
They are actual stickers, yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I will go and find points where I can actually stick them to something.
Yes.
I'll catch up with you on email with that if that's all right.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Thank you for that. The council recently ran a public consultation about a housing strategy, and I put in a section for that, basically saying that I think we need to have more social housing locally, but also we need to have more smaller private housing, because there's an absolute dearth at the moment of small houses, and a lot of people have said to me they want their adult children to be able to stay in the area, and there are retirees who would like to downsize, but there aren't enough options. So those are two things that I've emphasised in my submission to the housing strategy. And we have actually got a target locally for the amount of small 1 and 2 bed private houses we should have. And we're just not meeting that as a council at the moment. So 2 planning applications for the Vodafone site went through about a month ago. There were no 1 bed private homes, and there were very few 2 bed private homes. So once again, it's like 4 and 5 bed houses, and not enough for the local people. So that's something that I'm going to carry on pushing as time goes by. So at some point, West Berks Council will come back, having looked at the public consultation responses, and come up with a new plan.
What is the general consensus on that, though? Are they people? Because I totally with you on this 100%. So are other district councillors thinking the same thing, or not?
Well, the district council has got a target of 20 to 25% of any new private development should be 2 beds, and the Vodafone site went through with 6%. So 6% compared to 20-25%, and this is a target already enshrined in West Berkshire policy. So this was before the new draft housing strategy came along, and I questioned this when the Vodafone applications went through about a month ago. I said this does not meet with our own figures, and they just said, well, we talked to the developers and this was the best thing we could come up with. And it kind of begs the question, what is the point of having these policies? Maybe we should just say we won't bother to have any, because we've got no negotiating power with developers, you know? So it's daft.
Well, it doesn't surprise me after the old London Road fiasco, how much we spent on legal fees and all that kind of stuff. So nothing surprises me, to be honest.
Yeah.
We had
It's just a sort of, sorry, Fen, yeah.
we had that housing needs survey done by Manor Oak Homes.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year, I suppose, March time, and their report came back saying that those smaller size homes are in requirement here, and that's being built into their report, and hopefully they'll be able to present something back to us soon on that. But that they know that in our area that was what was requested.
Yeah, and this is what a lot of people in the villages in this ward have been saying to me for many months now. Yeah, they've got adult children who've moved away because they can't afford to stay around here. People want to downsize, and they're downsizing away from here, whereas they would have liked to have stayed here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be interested in seeing the results of that, Fen, when it's ready to be shared.
Sure.
Fabulous. Also, there was the government's planning white paper. I think the consultation on that has ended now. But as a council, we had a lot of meetings to go through that, and it's all about changing planning regulations. So at the moment, people can make a planning application, and as a district councillor, I can call it in, or 10 people can object. And in either circumstance, it then has to go to a committee and have a full debate and a vote. But in the future, they want to make it easier for developers to get planning permission. So the idea is when you go through this periodic process of coming up with a new local plan, you would the emphasis would be on getting the public involved in that process of developing the local plan, and it would contain guidance about design and so on. And then once that has passed, if a developer meets the restrictions within the local plan with regard to design and so on, they would get planning permission, and there would not be this mechanism where we could call it in and challenge it. So one of our concerns, and this goes for all of the parties on the council, is that it's very, very difficult at the moment to get people engaged with the local plan. It's a bit like the housing strategy. You know, did anyone on this call contribute to the housing strategy? No? Yes? I'll take that as a no. Exactly. So this is the trouble. You know, it's like, oh, the local plan, yeah, you get involved. And a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever, I've got better things to do. But when a planning application comes in, like Sunrise or Compton Institute or whatever, that's the point at which people get interested because it concerns them locally. But by that point in time, in the future, it might be too late to do anything about it. So at the moment, we don't know whether the government are going to proceed with those proposals or not. But West Berkshire have put in a very detailed response to it. And I have also received a lot of emails from local people about it as well. So,
Did you see
yeah.
our response?
I think you sent it to me, yeah.
Yeah, so our letter went to Robert Jenrick, Laura Farris, West Berks Council and you. And that was a couple of pages, wasn't it, that we wrote together, outlining our key concerns from the white paper, in particular SIL and that kind of thing. So we did have quite a meaty conversation on that.
Yeah. I think one of the proposals is we can't get SIL monies in the future until a whole housing development has been completed, and it would be based on the value of the houses as they are sold.
That's right.
So if you suddenly had a housing crash and you hadn't sold everything on your development, by the time you had, you might find that your SIL contributions are a lot lower than you would have originally hoped for.
A quick question on SIL money. So let's say the development in Compton goes ahead and the detriment from a traffic perspective hits East Ilsley way more than Compton. How come we don't get SIL money and yet Compton get it and they don't have the adverse effects that we get? So what happens with that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I can ask about that and say, is there any precedent for neighbouring villages to get support?
Because we will have way more detrimental effects from having 250 houses built in Compton than Compton has itself. So, you know, you're going to get all the SIL money going into Compton, whereas surely we should get some of that.
Yeah, you would hope so. Yeah, I'll ask a question about that, Stephen, and get back to you.
Yeah, there must be some precedent somewhere. I'm thinking about, you know, villages where a neighbouring village is near an arterial road and therefore there's been a knock-on effect. So I know we're not unique in the way that we are just slung near the A34 because of the development. So I'm sure there's more of that in the UK.
Yeah, you would hope so. It would be common sense. But yeah, I'll make inquiries about that, and I'll ask for more specific details about precedents that have been set and what kind of proportions people have got, that sort of thing. But one of my concerns about the Pirbright site, which I've probably shared with you before, is money due to the NHS. The local doctor's surgery could potentially come under a lot of pressure if there's a lot of new residences. And monies do go to the NHS, but apparently they don't always go to the area where the development is. They get put into I think a district or a region-wide pot and then distributed by the NHS according to where the need is greatest. So it is not a given that any monies given to the NHS as a result of the Pirbright site will find their way back to Compton. Wow. And that is something that I'm extremely concerned about, because there's already pressure on that doctor's surgery, and a lot of people have talked to me about their concern about that surgery. So I'm very mindful of those things. But yeah, when it comes to planning, I think it would be a disaster if we can't have the sort of scrutiny that we have with planning committee at the moment, because we can go over stuff with forensic detail. I mean, we had 2 planning applications in Compton recently for Carbosynth, which is part of that little retail park just near School Road and Wilson Close. You know, and you get all these noise surveys and you have to go through it in forensic detail, and you have to really be on the money to find the stuff that they need to be pulled up on. And in the future, if we haven't got that, stuff's just going to go through. And then people are going to come to me and say, what can we do to stop it? And I'm going to have to say nothing,
Yeah.
which, you know, is not good. So anyway,
Caroline, quick question.
yeah,
The Ilsley Barns and it going into Western Planning, it's been sitting there, I'm presuming, for months and months
Yeah.
and months. Has anything happened? Anything changed? Anything been concreted in?
no, there's still discussions going on between the council officers and Beeswax Dyson.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
there's no date for committee yet. We've got a meeting tomorrow. The next one will be in a fortnight. So the earliest it will be is in a fortnight's time. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, it's dragging on, and I don't know why, to be honest.
Okay.
And the Purbright thing's not come up yet either.
No.
No.
That's gone very quiet, hasn't it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of my concerns, to be honest, is whether developers are waiting until these white paper proposals go through, because I think the government do want to try and get them through as quickly as possible, whether they're just sort of holding fire and then they'll put in their detailed applications when they know that they can get stuff through easier.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, that's what the cynic in me fears.
Yeah.
That I hope I'm wrong, but you know.
Probably true, to be honest.
Mm,
From
Yeah.
a business perspective, it makes sense.
yeah, exactly. What else? Yeah, just so I think it's great what Crown and Horns have done with regard to the school meals during half term. I think they're a credit to the village, and the little shop as well has been great. And I've been busily promoting that. I went to West Ilsley Parish Council last night and told them all about the shop, and they thought, oh, that's good. Probably not so good for Compton shop.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing I was going to mention is there's this scheme called Warmer Streets, which the local Climate Action Network have been promoting, where you can get grants for home insulation, but they're also offering to do insulation for community buildings, including village halls and churches. So I just wanted to mention that to you. If you're interested, I can put you in touch with the Climate Action Network. West Ilsley are going to talk to them about the village hall, but I'm mentioning it to all the local parish councils. I haven't got all of the criteria, but I can put you in touch with the guys who have all the details if you're interested.
Yeah, please do. And Nick Watkins is on, because I'm on the R&R committee for the church with Nick as well. So yeah, we'd be interested in understanding more about that. Absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you.
great, good.
That'd be great. Thanks, Karen.
That's it from me.
Thanks.
Thank
Lovely.
you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Welcome. I'll stick around a bit longer, but I might disappear at some point. All right,
Okay.
thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, to receive a pond update from our flood warden, Watkins. Hello, Nick. You're on mute. Which I believe is the phrase of lockdown, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Most
You're on
commonly
mute.
used phrase. No, you went off and then back on again, Nick. Sorry, you.
Am I on now?
That's it. We're now
Yeah.
back here.
Good, good. Right, well, I put a report in on the flood warden part of this meeting, and I think it's pretty much there for all to see.
Yeah.
I keep in regular contact with the Hang Flood Forum, and they alert me when they think there may be potential flood risk. So I go out in the pouring rain and check that everything is flowing freely, which it is. I do think we're going to come to a point in the not too distant future when we need to get Will Kernan and probably Ian Wilson just to clear their bits of land as part of their riparian responsibility. But the main issue has been the pond and what we can do with regard to the pond and make it safe and risk-free from flooding. And Fen, as you'll have seen from the photographs, and bravely went out on her paddleboard a couple of weeks ago, to the purpose being to actually ascertain the depth of the water in the pond, and B, to try and ascertain the depth of silt that lies beneath the water. The water is only about 6 inches at its best in the middle, and the silt is at least 6 inches, and is like quicksand in places. So we had hoped that a professional company would come in and clear the pond for us and desilt it and get rid of the reeds. But as we all know, there is a bit of a gap between what's available in our budget and what the costs will be to achieve that. And I think we're looking at something around £8,000 or £9,000 deficit as things stand. We then looked at the practicalities of a sort of volunteer group going into the pond to at least cut back the reeds. But I think the concern is, even though there are people willing to do it, it's the risk associated with the silt and whether or not the depth of silt would act like quicksand and make it very difficult for people to even go in with waders and dig out the reeds, because there is a tendency to get sucked into it. It's so deep. It also stinks, by the way. So I think given COVID and lockdown too, we've missed the opportunity to get a working party together this side of Christmas, because we'll need at least 6 people to work on that. And so I think in the spring, early spring, we need to probably spring into action and get at least a volunteer group together and start cutting back the reeds as best we can. But what we can do on the desilting, I don't know. It needs to be removed. Ian Wilson has kindly given permission for the silt to then be laid in his field to dry out, but then it has to be taken away to a special site for disposal. And that really is where the large part of the cost lies. It's the actual, not just the removing of the silt, but it's the taking away of the silt that is adding to the cost. So I don't know what people feel, but perhaps the only course of action open to us in the winter is to keep a very close eye on the drainage. I understand from Fen that West Berks have been and blasted the drains, and so there is some, at least we've got comfort in knowing that the drains have been cleared for now, because they were blocking up as a consequence of the harvesting and everything else. But they were running freely when I last checked a couple of weeks ago when we had some heavy rain. So I think the drains have been blasted, so we have comfort that they will flow. The pond is flowing away. I noticed the other day that East Ilsley on Sea was beginning to appear again as the water under the bridge now flows into the field there. So that's a sign that the water is rising. But it does flow freely down to the beeswax part of the clearance there. So I think for winter we keep a close eye on it. We make certain that the pond doesn't flood. And then in the spring, unless we can find some grant money, which I know Fen is doing her best to see if there is another source of funding that could help bridge the gap, then in the spring I think we need to have a plan of volunteers to go in and at least do some of the de-reading. But that's pretty much where we are at the moment. We can all go and look at the level of the water table by going on the website that we've got access to, and we look at Holbeck as the one that is it Holbeck? I think it's Holbeck. It's the one that's relevant to us. So at the moment the water tables are okay. The water's flowing freely. No immediate risk of flooding, but no action can be taken in terms of cleaning the pond until I think spring of next year.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Nick. I don't understand I must say I don't really understand the flow of the water, and you know where there could potentially be more silt than other places. But I was just wondering whether there could be a like a quick relief thing or something if we hired a digger for a weekend for a couple of £100 and actually removed part of it before winter, or whether it is a wader job, get in and dig it all out type.
Well, we have Mike actually asked Ian Wilson if he knew of any friendly farmer who would be willing to lend us a digger.
Okay.
And he felt that there was somebody that potentially could lend us a digger. The concern was the digger sinking in because the land was so wet at the time. There's a digger sinking in. The other issue is we've then got to transport it down to Ian Wilson's field,
Okay.
which we can do, of course. You can find a lorry to take it down there, but at some stage we have to remove it from there. But it is something we're looking at, and if part of the volunteer group next spring might well be that's something we have recourse to, and we can do a bit of DIY desilting ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
So we are looking at that as part of the DIY volunteer group activity.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Can we just add, obviously, as part of this, I was asked to look for some pricing of waders, which I've sent you, and also think about a risk assessment for our volunteers. And I found a risk assessment starter pack from PondNet, another document I sent to you before the meeting. The thing that sort of is the warning bells for me is, before undertaking any activities, every field worker should consider the particular health and safety hazards associated with their individual site. Having been in the pond, it's a massive concern, and I would feel really uncomfortable, signing off a risk assessment, allowing people to wade into the pond when my paddle went down almost half the size before it reached anything solid. I don't feel that we can risk people at the moment wading in there. I know that there are some brave people that are willing to do that, but from our public liability aspect, that's what scares me. And my job for you is legal professional, and I would really be worried about signing off a risk assessment for that particular activity at the moment.
Well, the thing is, I would say let's buy waivers, and if people want to sign a waiver and say we won't sue if we get ill and all that kind of stuff, I'm happy for us to do that, because I'm happy to go in there and waivers. I've been in without waivers before on a few occasions, and
that's what we're worried about, Steve.
Hey,
that's what we're worried about.
No. The thing is, if it's going to save us like 10, 15 grand on clearance, and it's going to make it safer, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think we just need to get it done. And Matt McNeil went in like 3 years ago and pulled those out with John Clark, and that did the job for a while, but it just needs to be done again.
Yeah. I'm just wondering though, I mean, I know there was some concerns back when I first started on the council, there was some concern about potentially toxic levels in the silt or whatever because of the runoff from the road, petrol, diesel, oil, that type of thing in the pond. I'm wondering whether, given that, as Nick suggested, is that this is something that probably needs to happen now, early part of next year, can we use that time and pay a little bit of money to get some sort of testing done, to get some silt taken out and tested and analysed to find out whether it is potentially hazardous? I mean, that would go in some way, Fan, towards the risk assessment. Because if it is just mud, then we're not really that worried about it, are we, other than the people falling over in the water type risk, rather than people actually getting, doing everything right but still getting ill because there's something toxic in the pond. I think it's probably a duty of care from us to know if there is something toxic in the pond anyway. So I would vote that in to get some sort of testing done. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Okay, who's going to second a testing vote? So Mike propose.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah, get it
Are we all
done.
in favour?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go back to our previous report from 2005 and find our contact for that, and then see if I can get them to come and do another analysis. And then at our meeting in January, hopefully I'd have some values for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to order some waders so that they're here?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Yeah,
good.
I don't see any problem with that. Yeah, it's good.
Now they're done on boot size. So what shall I order?
I'm size 9.
I'm size 8.
I can share Nick's.
Yeah.
So should I get 1, 8, 1, 9 and 1, 10? So
Why
we
not?
have 3.
Well, I thought you were coming in as well, Fen. So
Yeah.
you must be smaller, unless you're a big foot.
I'll just watch you from the paddleboard.
Mm.
Oh, the clerk has to come in the pond.
I will. I'll float. I'll be your safety net.
Yeah, put
I think it's a case of it possibly if it's a party of 6, it probably won't be 6 people in the pond anyway, will it? There'd need to be a working party on the side,
Yeah.
and then people who are actually in the thick of it, digging the bits out, and then people taking stuff away from the side. So
Did you have a preference as to which waders we went for?
Green ones.
Green ones. I think they're all green. I'm just having a look. I sent you 3 options, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Wader options. Right, so we got green ones from Decathlon, $34.99. We got green ones from Amazon, $17.95, but there's a $7.99 delivery charge. And then some sort of safety supply company, green ones for $54.65 each.
Let's go with the Decathlon ones.
That's on, yeah.
Okay, so Decathlon. So times 3. Are you happy with those sizes, or shall I get 8, 9s and 10s, or shall I get an 8 and 2 9s? I don't know about shoe sizes.
I just get a variety fan.
Right. I can always put a pair of socks on if you got 9.
Yeah.
Right, brilliant. Okay, I'll get a size, one size of each. So I'll order 3 pairs, yeah?
Order 4.
Okay. Right, all in agreement with purchase of waders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should buy a few benches as well, and then we can put Steve Meadows lost in the pond.
I hope not. Okay. Right. Well then, are you also happy then that in between now and the spring, I write that risk assessment based on this model for our pond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get that
Yeah.
all prepared, because I can't let anybody in that pond until they've read it and signed this. Okay, for our
Yeah.
insurance.
that's fair enough. And yeah, I'd be much more comfortable if we've had some sort of test done before then. But,
Okay, so risk assessment and test and gear. And are you happy that I use the £11,000 that's in the earmark reserves for pond to make these payments?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pond EMR, brilliant. Right, thank you.
Do you need any round robin signatures for that, Fan, or are you happy? Is it okay because we recorded?
No, recorded, it's all good.
All right.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Item 8, to review the draft budget of 2020-2021 and the proposal for the next precept.
Okay, so just to remind you that this is actually just draft. We want to approve the budget at our meeting in January, because the precept requests will come out shortly before the end of the financial year. So what you see in front of you is my actual from last year, what we approved this year, what our current spend is, and then a projection given a sort of 3% increase on products and services as per inflation. So it's all much guesswork at the minute, and it's, you know, a perk of being a clerk. But this is the time where you get to look at those, and you also can decide where can we spend, what projects have we got coming up, which we can then add into the model, which will obviously overall affect the precept requests that we're going to ask for next year. Just so you know, it's not best practice to reduce the precept. So this year we asked for 14,430. So we either keep it at that, or we increase it to help us pay for a project.
Okay.
Over to
How
you.
much do we have in the pond? How much do we have in the pond, EMR?
11,000 at the moment, but you're going to need to remove 4 lots of waders and the cost of the test.
Do we have any idea how much that test is? I imagine it's a few £100.
It's got to be a couple of £100.
Yeah.
It's just up it to 16,000 then.
Sorry, say that again?
Up it to 16,000.
Okay.
It covers us for a rough amount.
Let's just have a look. Let's get this out. So we are...
We don't want to keep it as it is, otherwise we'll lose out.
Yeah, it's not best practice to reduce. So that would be increasing the precept by £1,570.
Yeah.
Which would, the thing is, what we need to think about though, you know, this is potentially the opportunity to secure help with the pond project.
Oh, so we should go higher rather than lower.
These are your options.
Okay, so I would say go higher then.
I mean, how high can you go? I mean, what difference?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, because so per household, Tracy, that's a really good question. So let's say we upped it by £5,000. What does that equate per household in the village?
I have no idea what the calculation is because it's collected through the council tax, isn't it?
Well, no,
Yeah.
exactly. So I would say, you know, if the council tax went up £10 from the precept, from the whole village, you know, what is that amount in thousands? So was there 400 houses?
250 houses.
Is it 250? I thought it was 400.
No.
No, it's 462 electors, so people. But you need to consider obviously that in most cases, more than one person lives in that property. So we have 250 communicators printed.
Okay.
So if you add a £10 onto each dwelling, and it's averaged out over the council tax system, so that's
2,500 in it. So what have we got now?
14,430. I'll just let you know that the Localism Act 2011 introduced statutory controls that restrict excessive increases in the council tax set by billing authorities and subsequently the precepts set by precepting authorities, including us.
I think from my perspective that if we're going to increase it by quite a large amount year on year, we need to be very clear with villagers. We need to be very clear statement to villagers why we are doing this.
Yeah.
The angle being that looking at it, it's public awareness and public knowledge of the amount of money that we are sitting on within each of our groups. So it's explaining to the village that whatever money we've currently got in the bank accounts, the 50-odd thousand, that 50 grand, a villager might say, but why wouldn't you, if the pond is 18 or 20,000 sterling, it's of crucial importance, why wouldn't you spend that volume of money? Why have you just lifted the precept up by 4,000 or 5,000? So it's that balancing act of us being able to clearly explain and demonstrate why we want to raise the precept and why we're not dipping into the money that we have sitting in reserves to pay this bill.
I think from the last kind of like 12 months, we can easily explain how that works from the amount of money that's been spent on the playground and say, well, we've spent X amount on redeveloping and redoing that, and now we need to look after other parts of the village, i.e. the pond and all that kind of stuff. So I think that kind of explains away. People can't really complain about that perspective at all, I don't think.
Yeah, like put it this way: let's call that the playground cost 20,000, and villages raised another 15 grand amongst each other to help towards playground. So I think a 20 grand investment, it's not a massive issue. I think if we're going to lift the Precept up, absolutely lift it, as long as we're able to demonstrate why we've done that. Because if you're external from here, the first thing you're going to look at is to go, why can somebody explain to me, if you are really down and out and we need to raise up the Precept, why are we sitting? Why do you have, let's say, 50 grand in the bank? Why isn't it 30? So why do you need 50 grand in the bank? What are you going to do if it's the pond, it's the playground? What other stuff in this village is going to be so detrimental that we're going to have to empty our accounts to pay for it? There isn't a hell of a lot to the village, bar the pond and making sure the safety, and a village hall, which we're never going to get. So
Yeah, so
couldn't we at the end, just before the new financial year, move a certain amount into a group, you know, the pond fund and whatnot, and then what's left, and then you add in the new Precept, which then would bring it back level, if you get what I mean.
Right, so we've got £11,000 in the pond earmark reserve. Now that was gathered from the Precept increase that we did this year, okay,
Yeah.
and a bit from our general reserves. I'm obviously going to spend a couple of £100 out of that. So if we increase the Precept to top up this, that's what, when that Precept came in, it would be put into that earmark reserve. So that pond fund would grow. We need to work out how much, because obviously the Precept helps to pay our net revenue expenditure for next year. Okay, this year we've already spent 36,318. Okay, our Precept was only 14,430, and we're not even at the end of the financial year yet, but you know that we've spent from general reserves because we were carrying an excess.
So also my concern then is, you know, we looked at utilising some of the space in the common field and turning it into a copse for the village. Now, I'd like to know how much money we've had over, say, the last 5 years from the government to look after that land, how much that is, because they're now saying that they could potentially claw back that money if we haven't used it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So from my perspective, moving forward, any money we get for the common field is siloed in an account, and it's not treated as general funds for the parish council. It's literally siloed for spending on that land, because I can see we've got a liability going back maybe a few years, and they can sting us for cash, stop the cash and come back for us. So,
yeah, so we have got 2,500 in an earmark reserve called Presswell Field. Last year we were awarded 4,705 against the stewardship cost centre. We were expecting about 5,000 this year. None of it's come in.
Yeah.
But the people at DEFRA and have been furloughed. So, and those that haven't been furloughed are working on post-Brexit. So rural payments, unfortunately, have been put on the back burner.
I'm not worried about the not getting the payment. I'm worried about them coming back to us and saying, because that lady's email saying you've got 3 or 4 horses on the land, and that's not acceptable for looking after an area in a and OB area.
Yeah, we did have 5, remember?
Yeah,
but
no,
we lost 2 moved away, and that's why we've advertised for some more horse friends
Yeah.
to come. I did speak to Caroline about this, and we thought maybe pushing it out to some of the wider villages.
I just don't want to be stuck with extra cash that they may say, well, you owe us this.
I understand. What my other concern is that in the projected column, I've added that we potentially could get another 5,000 next year, which has obviously increased our total income next year to 7,000.
Yeah.
If we don't get that again, we are actually only going to get £2,143 of income that doesn't include the precept. So that's from interest, the allotments, I don't know, donations like a token scheme, the tiny rent on a substation, and VAT claim.
Well, I think we're going to have to, so for the common field, we're going to have to ask for a roving flock to come in to manage the field for us. It doesn't cost us anything, but we're going to have to ask a farmer if they've got a roving flock that they can put in there to manage the grassland. Otherwise, we're going to have to pay money back. So I think maybe we speak to James Dyson of Beeswax.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of these figures then, I think, because obviously Andrew's not here, but when we first talked about the budget, he was against raising the precept massively, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I recall that.
And this was obviously only draft. We've still got, you know, the rest of this month, December, and up to the 12th of January to get our heads around the figures. But at the January meeting, this has got to be ratified. So that when the precept request comes in, I can send it and we can get it signed and sent in. But we have, the basic is we've got an opportunity here to potentially get a large chunk of money that will go solely towards the excavation of the pond. But Andrew's comments were, he doesn't want the precept going up and down like a yo-yo each time we've got to deal with this pond. It seems that the sensible route for him would be possible smaller increments, allowing us to build up a fund. But we haven't got time on our hands with the worry of how deep this pond is full of silt.
But I mean, having a one-off larger precept though for next year, given that we do need to do something in this period, and then a kind of an agreement with the village that we'll level that off, and then we'll build the fund for the next time, which needs to be in 5 years' time or whatever, to do more maintenance work on it. That sounds, you know, like I say, we don't have the luxury of being able to build up funds right now because we need to do the work, and we've needed to do the work for over a year.
Yeah.
It's been in discussion since this time last year at the very least, isn't it, to get it done, and people were worried about it. People are worried, you know, it's only got to take somebody's house to properly flood and all hell will break loose. So explaining that what we're doing kind of is, you know.
It is. I was wondering whether between now and Christmas, is it worth doing a free survey monkey and sending it round to the villages about their thoughts on precept increase and for the purpose of it and how they would feel, because obviously I am worried that this has been quite an austere year for people and there may be employment worries. You know, people might be eating into their savings if they're on furlough, and it just might not be the best time to go, hi, we need all this money. So I'm wondering whether we could knock together a survey monkey for free, get that around the village and try and actually get some responses, which might actually give us an idea of whether we want to, how high we can go.
Yeah, I think
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. My feedback initially on it, just as thinking as I'm talking, is that you can't say, is this a good idea or is it not? You need to give them 2 or 3 options and they need to vote on options, and it's either accept the risk of that the pond might flood, Yeah, and people need to vote that they're accepting that risk or they not, and there needs to be a couple of other options as to what we do, whether we do half a job next year and then do something in 2 or 3 years time and keep it going like that, or whether we do a all-out job next year, in which case we need a bit more money to add to the EMR to be able to do the job. But if it's looking, as Nick said earlier, you know, we're 8 or 9k short, then we can find a little bit of that from somewhere else, but the vast majority of it's going to need to come from the Precept, I would suggest. So
Okay.
Because most people complain about the pond all the time.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
can't see why they should make a fuss.
no, I know, and you could argue that the pond is of more interest to the general villager than the park was, the playground, because the playground only gets a certain demographic, but the pond for people to sit and, you know, watch the ducks and all that kind of stuff, if it stinks because of it's not been maintained or whatever, as an example, is a good reason not to hang around there. So
Yeah.
it is the focal point of the village, well, apart from Nick's house, but yeah.
Should I put together some questions and share them all
Please.
with you?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we can work together over email and get these right, so that the responses, not that they're led, it's that it gives us an accurate idea of how they would feel if, and that kind of thing. And then I'll set up the Survey Monkey. We've got another EIC going out just before Christmas, so we can go in there, and we can close it at the beginning of January, and we'll have the results for our meeting on the 12th, so that
Yeah.
that would help us at the ratification meeting. Does that sound like a
Yeah.
plan?
Sounds
Yeah.
good. I don't know
Yeah.
how quickly we can move on the test of the pond silt, but if we could expedite that to
Yep.
get the results of that into whatever this survey is, that would be useful as well. Because if there is something that we do need to get rid of, then people might be more accepting of paying for a little bit extra for it next year.
Oh, actually, can I suggest something which is a bit kind of like left field? How about we ask the school to use it as a project for their kids? And surely someone would test it for free if a school tested their local pond. So it didn't come from
Okay.
our funds. So, Brendan, you know, you're on the Yummy Mummies kind of committee and all that kind of stuff. Can you ask someone from there to say, surely someone can write a letter to a testing agency from a little school asking, can you test this for free?
What about Carverson? Sorry, Becky Budden.
I like that idea, and Fen is obviously clerk of the governor, so she's very close to school. But I think that, yeah, it's interesting thinking. Way left is right, but let's see. I mean, I don't know.
Free for us. Who can
Yeah.
ignore a little parish council school asking whether their pond is contaminated and charge them for it? Newby Weekly would love that shit. So
Yeah.
I would say that surely we could do something like that. If we're thinking saving money, we need to kind of think outside the box a bit. And if it saves us £500, which is what it's going to cost us to test the silt, then let's go for it.
I've just got my risk assessment hat on, and I'm just worried about Kate dangling children into a pond getting silt.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Exactly.
people do it, Fan. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, we can talk to Kate. I've got a governor's meeting coming up soon, so yeah. I'll find out how much it is and who can do it. Who knows? That I mean, the labs might all be occupied with a vaccine. We don't know.
Yeah.
It might not be on their priority to even do it for us or for a school if they've put their resources elsewhere.
I think it's a good idea to do the Survey Monkey, even as Mike was saying. And I think also the fact is, if we can get it in before Christmas, it's to give the village clarity as to what we need to do. Because I've said from the start, from the day I joined this wonderful, wonderful council, everybody that I talk to has questioning, what are you doing with the 52,000 or the 50 grand or the 58 grand, whatever figure it might be? What is that sitting there? Because the pond is of huge importance, as we said, to the majority of people in the village. Outside of that, where else are you going to spend a considerable amount of money out of your account for any other project? Because I can't think of anything else. The pond is hugely, hugely important. So villagers could say, if we're not demonstrating and providing clarity, well, okay, if it costs 25 grand, it's expensive business, but if it costs 25,000, do it. No problem, let's do it. And get that money out of the savings account effectively and spend it. Because you'll get 14 or 15 grand every year in the Precept, so that'll top you up. And you might be down to 18 grand sitting in the bank or 20 grand sitting in the bank just to sit there on reserve. But what else are you going to spend that money on, council? What's big stuff that could come up that's you're really going to have to dig deep and spend tens of thousands of pounds? So that is where we can keep it there. We could keep it there, but I think in the EIC, we need to just give the village why we're not politely emptying out 20 grand to pay for it now or in early spring. Just do it. Done. Job done. Move on.
Yeah, it might be nice if we, because obviously the earmark reserves are available for public view. They're part of our transparency. So people can see that £39,647.13 has been assigned to projects. But, you know, someone might say, well, why have you got £2,456 sat in the S106 grant? Well, that is linked, it's not the same, but it is linked to SIL. It's sort of from developers. So because that's towards the benefit of the community, why doesn't that go into the pond fund? What else? The benefit of the community is to have a good, clean, sweet smelling pond environment to go to. So there could be that argument. Do we even need the S106 grant? Let's just put it all in the pond and build up the pot that way. As long as we can cover ourselves, as a smaller authority, we can cover ourselves, we can have general reserves of 1 year net revenue expenditure. We have spent, okay, this year is a bit of a strange one because of how much we've spent, but we know that we're going to need about 15 grand. We need that in our current account on top of our Precept to be a viable parish council. And that's the problem. We can't just say, right, thanks for the Precept, and our account drains to zero on the 31st of March. It doesn't work like that. That makes us unviable.
No, I agree. So Andrew's suggestion then of the gradual increase, if we did, as Brendan says, just kind of get this resolved early part of next year as a job, or can we do it in the winter? I don't know. We might be able to do it. If we're going to pay for it, we might be able to get it done next week. Unrealistic probably, but we could probably do it before March, April timeframe that we would want to get in there with waders. So if we are going to pay for it and get it done, then that's a good option. And then, but what we need to do is that we need to kind of set a time frame in everybody's mind, not just ours. We need to agree it, but we need to set it in everybody's mind, is that we're likely to spend between 15 and 20 grand on the pond every 5 years. And we need some way of getting that money into funds over that period of time, because it's unrealistic to drop the money in now and then find out that we can't afford it in 5 years' time because we didn't budget accordingly. But maybe that small increase over a period of 5 years will help with doing that in the future. So I think that's the way we should be budgeting for it.
Yeah, and also we can't take this as read, but once COVID's out of the way, all the grants will become a bit more normal. So there may be someone out there that can offer a grant to help us for the pond, but at the moment, every grant is to help people in COVID. Yes. It's COVID recovery. So, you know, I can't get anything. Even Thames Water, who might have been able to help in the past, are now only supplying stuff to support you with COVID recovery. And
well, I actually think I saw a few mink in the pond today. They were like scuttling around in the corner.
Mink?
I'm sure I saw some mink in the pond.
What about the great crested newt I saw?
Yeah, so maybe meat extermination for the pond. So, yeah.
Okay. Right, let's work on this Survey Monkey. Let's try and get some actual feeling from the village.
Yeah.
Before we move on, Mike, is there anything else on this budget that you've all thought, whoa, no, hang on a minute, why is that costing that? Or you have forgotten about that? Have I forgotten about anything?
I couldn't see anything.
No, that looks good.
Nothing leaping off the page.
Can I say good night?
Oh, yes, thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
See you later, Nick.
Well, thank you all very much. See you soon.
Okay, all the best.
Bye.
Bye. I don't think there's anything on there that I've forgotten. Okay. We could take it that that is what's going to happen, and then we'll just deal with the pond. So if we look at expenditure code 4105, third one down, that projected value could change. We could increase that to something like 20k, which would then increase the precept, yeah, depending on the results of the survey.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on then. Point 9, to approve and appoint Helis and Lodge as our auditors for the accounts ending 31st March 2021.
Yeah, so it's same as what we did last year. We know them, they know us, they know how we work. We get a fantastic report from them, which really helps us strengthen our procedures. So I'd like it if you could ratify that we go with them again.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All good.
Thank you. I will send them a letter and say that we'd like their services.
Thank you. And then item 10, to approve grant requests for Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal and Star Rescue Animal Charity.
Okay, so this is all to do with section 137 money, which we are allowed to hand out to charities. We usually donate £50 to the Poppy Appeal. So if you're all happy with that, then I can, I've got the bank details. Yeah, all okay?
Yep.
Do we usually do that, given it's a COVID year, and I think the British Legion is struggling a bit? Is it right for us to do an exceptional and increase that this year?
Probably, to be honest, from 50 to 100, if someone wants to second me.
Yeah, I'll second that.
So
Yeah, let's do it.
propose 100,
I know
yeah?
some of these secondary charities are really struggling, aren't they, this year when it's not COVID related, as you said earlier. So
Okay, and all in favour?
Yeah.
The Star Rescue Animal Charity is to do with the ferret people.
Perfect.
Yeah, so do you know if it's been done yet?
They've done half, I think.
Okay.
And I think it's working, to be fair. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So these guys, the last of the summer wine ferret people, they don't want payment for their assistance with the rabbit population. Instead, they would like us to make a donation to this animal charity because they look after ferrets and small animals, and they're in Basingstoke. So obviously this comes under donations, which would be under our S137. So first of all, we need to agree how much we would like to donate, and then ratify that you're all happy to do this.
Yeah.
Fen, is that already locked away in that subcode, or would we put money in there once we've agreed how much?
So S137 is calculated £8.32 per elector.
Right. Okay.
So we have £3,835.52 we're allowed to spend
In
of
there.
our
Okay.
precept. We don't budget for S137, strictly speaking, but we have up to that value that we can spend. So the £100 for the RBL is fine. So we just need, we're well covered, but I have to report it. It's a legal requirement.
Yeah, okay. Right. How much do we give then, is the question.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve, you were pretty close to the ferret people? What do we think reasonable?
Seeing Ben explain how it works, I would go back from the last donation and say we should up it to 400, to be fair, and do 200 for the ferret people.
Oh, sorry, you lost me. What are we
So
upping to
200
400?
for the British Legion and 200 for the ferret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind, yeah. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
So 400 in total.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
All in favour? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen, could you let me know when the ferret work is complete? Because then I will do
Yes.
the small animal charity is currently closed. Obviously, they're looking after the animals, but I can't contact them to get their bank details.
No,
So
that's fine.
that will be on hold, but obviously it's recorded that we will be making
Cool.
that donation. Thanks.
Thank you. And then item 11, to receive the clerk's report on finance payments and any other issues arisen since the previous meeting.
Okay, so you should have all seen the October finance report I sent you yesterday. Big spend up again this month because of renewal of public liability insurance. We had our fee for Good Exchange, the new website, and we repaired that brick gate post. So yeah, it was quite a big spend month, but obviously most of that was earmarked and came from project money. So that's all fine. We are looking okay. We have SIL money came in 1,400. And actually last year you paid £66.78 too much tax on the clerk's salary. So we got a refund of £66. So that's good news.
Nice.
It's only because I noticed it and chased them. They weren't going to give it to us, but I said, I want that £66 back, please. And it's in your account, not mine. It's something to do with me. Right, I've just got a couple of notices for you. Compton Neighbourhood Plan has got moved into the consultation stage. Okay, they have to do this under Regulation 14. We need to, if we wish, review their neighbourhood plan and deliver any comments by the 21st of December. I have had a quick look. It's about 77 pages long, but a lot of it is about Pirbright and how the level of houses predicted would have such a damage to their small village status and pressure on the amenities. So I don't know whether what might be best is if I forward you this email, and when you've got a minute, just have a look. We might want to put something together about supporting their neighbourhood plan, which would hope to reduce what Pirbright would be allowed to do and any further developments.
They went to a third party, didn't they? To
Oh yeah, it's all been
get
fully
advice on this.
consulted.
Have we seen that full report that they got? I know
It's
they
on
paid
their website, I think, because I have had a look at it. But yeah, this is now the final report that the working group have put together that is out for full consultation.
Yeah.
So
that's what's really going to happen. The traffic problem in the village is going to go through the roof, isn't it? If it's too big.
yeah.
So there's everything that's wrong with it in Compton, but there's also everything that's wrong with it in East Ilsley as well. So
Yeah, which is why we've been asked to provide comments, but I don't feel that, you know, I can do that on my own.
okay.
I need some help with that. So I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah.
And if
thank
you've
you.
got some spare time, it needs
I'll
a
do it,
quick
yeah.
read and some help because I can't do it myself.
That's
Okay,
cool.
another consultation's come in. This is from West Berks, actually. They are proposing to build a brand new school to support special education needs and autistic children. So this is going to be in addition to Priors Court.
Yeah.
I think they're looking to build a space that would look after up to 42 children, from the sort of autistic spectrum side of things down to those that need individual learning plans for school. It would be secondary 11 to 18, but we have been asked to answer some questions on that. Does anyone have any immediate thoughts? Because this is just a sort of tick box exercise on a website, so I'm happy to do this for you. Are you for or against, or do you think Newbury needs that?
Where's it going to be?
Don't know. Don't know. Doesn't say.
I can't really comment unless I know where it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Limited information.
all it says is, we're consulting with stakeholders about our proposal to develop new resource provisions. It outlines our proposal to develop a 42-place resource provision for secondary aged learners. Doesn't say where it is, but I think perhaps that's because they need to know do we support this need before they find a location?
There is a need for teenage autistic children. I've got quite a few clients who have got autistic children in that age, and it's difficult getting any kind of education.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, but...
It says here, I've just found it, it is proposed that the resource would be managed by an existing West Berkshire school, so it would become like an add-on. The building would be nearby, not on the school site. A site and host school have not yet been confirmed, and a further consultation will be undertaken when the host school has been identified. So this first stage is more about, is there a need? Do we support the need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you support the need. Definitely support
Yeah.
the need.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you happy if I respond on behalf of us all to say that we support this extra provision?
Yeah.
We would like to be consulted on location, etc., when that stage is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you remember the highways consultancy report we've paid for Purbright and the village and the conservation area? We should have a draft report with us by the end of this week from Charlotte. So I'll send that to you all, which will be quite interesting, particularly for you who are in listed buildings, because they are taking that into account as well.
Yes, thank you. Yes, good.
Okay. War Memorial Grant, I've filled out all the applications. We are going to panel on the 31st of December to find out if they're going to pay for us to have the War Memorial restored. I have received news from Oxford Diocese that my faculty has been accepted. So we are allowed to place the new memorial in the church, which is brilliant news.
Oh, excellent.
More on that later, and that will save us £1,400, hopefully, if they pay for it with a grant. So that's brilliant. Oh, just a quick one, Sheepdown, Mike, that house planning's gone through, it's all been accepted.
Good.
So we expect some SIL money from that, which is
Okay,
good. Your councillor emails should be coming soon. I know I keep saying this and sound like a stuck record. They're just working with the takeover from Google. So soon you will all have your own parish councillor email address as per the back of the magazine, okay? I'll let you know how to log on, how to get them on your phones, on your iPads, all right? But
Where are they going at the moment, then? If somebody, I spotted it on the EIC. If somebody does message us, what happens?
into the
Comes to
big
you.
wide web.
Yeah.
Don't-
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That's why I keep chasing them, and I've said to Mark, I've published 2 magazines with these emails on now, and I still haven't got them. So yeah, he's doing that today. Last one from me, obviously the emergency response team are back up and running for lockdown 2. We had a new member join the team yesterday. We've had a couple of phone calls, nothing we couldn't deal with or out of the ordinary, and buddies have been assigned to those people to provide support. But just to let you know, we are back on, but it's certainly not like it was back in March. And that's it from me.
Okay,
Oh.
Right.
thank you. Item 12, to discuss matters for future consideration and for information. Anybody on anybody?
No.
Oh, is that me, Fen, then, is it?
If you want, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what day are we on now? Tuesday. So yesterday morning, before 9:30, I was driving back into the village round past the pond. And as I turned round to where Nick's house is, as I turned the corner, a man came the other way. He nearly drove right into me. So I got out, and the man was elderly, and he started to cry. He's a bit agitated, you know, he's very distressed by the whole situation. So it started to play. We already know the game that everyone is not understanding the one-way system in this village. The signage seems to be there. I checked myself again and kind of gone, how has this man got confused to come down past Nick's house and round the corner? But it got me thinking that even where I am on the corner here on the High Street to Broad Street, so many cars come up past you, Stephen, up past Andrew's house, up the other way. So I'm just thinking outside of the box about what other things can we do. It's above and beyond us because it would be a highway thing, but it's what else can we do to try and politely demonstrate and educate people? Because he was literally in pieces. I mean, he was an elderly man. I thought I was going to have to resuscitate him. So it wasn't an ideal situation. Rather than someone who was arrogantly going around and didn't care, this guy was totally distressed. So how he made that error, I'll never know, but he did. So what other things can we do to make it blatantly clear to people they're going the wrong way?
I think in this case, you will always get the odd elderly person that goes the wrong way. They end up going the wrong way on motorways. So you'll always will be the one person that ends up doing that. But you're right, if it's more of a general concern, if coming up past your house up the high street the wrong way, it's a regular occurrence, then that appears to be some sort of signage problem, doesn't it?
Oh, it's about 4 or 5 times a day. And now in lockdown, obviously, over the last 8 months, I've been able to see it out the window here. But it's just, they don't know they're going there, or allegedly they don't know they're going the wrong way. They're just gently driving up the road like it's the normal way to go.
Yeah. Well, I was at the pub on Halloween and sat outside, and someone shot over from Abingdon Road straight up the high street.
Yeah.
Okay, it was dark, and I know people were following sat-navs, but what is wrong with the sat-navs that they do not know that's not a no entry? I don't understand, with all these map updates and Google stuff that drives around. I think we need to take it to West Berks traffic team.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what did he do after you spoke to him? Did he get in his car, turn around and drive off? Or did he... He
went into Ilsley Court. And he
carried
turned
on round the wrong way.
So yeah, and then I said I had to block the road so that nobody ran into him. So he then turned and off and into Ilsley Court and did a turnaround where Will Kernan's driveway is, and then started to go back up. He went back up the road past my house, but up onto the A34 because he was going to Newbury. So I still haven't worked out how he did that. Yeah. I was trying to think, did he come down past the church? Did he come down to the church and then make a decision to go the wrong? But he wasn't, because he came round past Nick's house. So he was coming round down that road.
Sounds like he must have come up. Did he go past the Star, do you think, come down that hill?
Not sure. No, not sure. Because he came round thinking he was on the right side of the road. He was gently moseying along. And then he just nearly ran into me.
I know it sounds bad, but we do need to sort of report this as an incident, because I guess the more we report, the more they're going to have a log of them being a problem. And that we could actually get some help with it. I don't know whether do we need those up and down bollards that only go down when your car's in front of it on one side.
Or a couple of people with shotguns. That was,
really good, actually.
You got a perfect spot, Stephen. You can sit in your kitchen and aim at them.
Exactly. Well, I have seen the police go up the wrong way.
Well, there you go.
Because didn't it only get changed recently from a one-way system? Because it was still on the old A34 one-way, two-way traffic.
It might have been, yeah.
It's only recently that's been changed. That's why the sat-navs haven't been
Update.
It was still as a two-way traffic system rather than the one-way.
Okay, I'm going to write to traffic and highways at West Berks and let them know of this incident. So was that yesterday, was it?
Yesterday, yeah, before 9:30.
Okay, we might as well log it. There's no harm in that. And if it ends up that we keep building up a case, then we're going to have to get some support.
Yeah.
Because someone is going to get hurt, whether it's one of our villagers, someone crashes into a house, or, you know, someone actually really does themselves an injury.
Yeah.
I think it's actually quite serious as well, because it actually comes up as, I think it's driving without due care and attention if you have an accident while you're doing something where you haven't followed a road sign correctly. So it's quite a serious incident. So we definitely need to be logging them.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit early, but I found out that Mr. Jeffs is 90 in April. I don't know whether, yeah, Julian Jeffs. I mean, he must be one of the oldest now, if we wanted to do something for him. I mean, it's not till April, so, you know, we can talk about it another time.
Good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, and hopefully by then we'll know if we can have a chairman's allowance, because that's where that kind of money would come from. Obviously, because we haven't got general power of competence, we can't do anything for an individual, and we can't spend S137 money, because as much as it would be lovely to shower Mr. Jeffs with stuff, it's not in the whole community advantage. That's what that money's there for. But if we could get a small allowance, that might allow us to do something for him, like get a cake or a...
Good idea.
I don't know, could he open something? A little plaque? Be quite cute.
I mean, he's been around a long, long time, and you know, he's quite up in his field, and you know, it just would be nice, because they do put themselves out. Well, they did, because they're too old now. But I mean, he was on the parish council for a long time, and you know, so it would be nice to give some recognition on his 90th birthday.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's it.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go back to the document. And that's further questions and comments from members of the public.
And we have none online.
Okay.
Oh, we're done.
We
You're
are
done.
just in time for Bake Off. Thank you. I can watch it on +1.
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Take care.
Yeah,
Thanks,
everyone take
everybody.
care.
Take care.
Bye for
Bye.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.